Hey guys, what's up? Last week I sent an email to my list asking you guys for harmonica related questions, which I'm gonna go over right now. Al Ask writes, "Hi Jonah, my question is, if you have just 30 minutes to practice every day, what or how would you structure your practice?" Here's exactly what I do, and I go over this in my Harmonica Accelerator course, which is free. You can access it down below. The link is in the description, but let me just talk through it a little bit. I start with a warm-up, okay, where I am just going to do a blow and draw on every hole. I do this to not only get my own mind like paying attention to the harmonica and getting into that feeling again, but also to make sure that my instrument is functioning properly, because if you have any reeds that are stuck, you got to unstick them or you're going to run into that frustration at a worse time. So I always do that to start, to make sure my harmonica is working properly. And if I want to go into more depth on some of these exercises, then I will do some of the studies out of Howard Levy's Rhythm of the Breath book, which is actually pretty great if you want to check that out. I'll put the link in the description as well. Aside from that, then I just kind of go to the next part, which for me is scales. I will go and just review any scales that I know. So if I know how to play the major scale, the blues scale, and the major pentatonic, I'm going to run all of them. And then I'll pick one that I don't know as well, and I'll practice that a little bit longer using either a metronome or a program like Harp Trainer, which I will link down in the description as well, which is my own product to automate scale practice and make it as easy as possible for you. So I would definitely have a good scale practice session and focus on learning a little bit more than you already know, and check in with all the things that you know previously. Aside from that, I'd spend a little bit of time working on your techniques. Now, for you, this could be vibrato. For others, it could be bending. It's really going to matter where you are in your learning process of what techniques you're going to be focusing on. But if there's something that you feel like is holding you back because you don't know it, I would spend a couple minutes working on it. So if this is bends, you can work on your bends with a bending app or with drone tracks, or even just by practicing them with just your harmonica and running through them. You could do vibrato by working on the sound that creates the vibrato, like ba ah 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 ba ah ah. There's all of these different things. I would spend like no more than 5 minutes on techniques, and then I would go into the main bulk of what your playing session is going to be, which is going to differ depending on what kind of player you are. Some people really want to be blues improvisers. Some people want to learn every little Walter song. Some people want to play, funk harmonica. Your goal is going to be different based on where you're trying to go. So I suggest just picking something that, leads in the direction that you want to. If you want to really focus on improv, then your activities here are doing improvising over a variety of backing tracks. And I would say make sure you explore away from just the blues, right? Try a bunch of things, and that'll make you a better improviser, just getting practice doing the thing. But it also could be learning riffs and licks that you use while you're improvising. So try to just kind of build that out for yourself. If you are the kind of person that really wants to learn songs, then I would say just spend most of your time learning songs. Why not? If you want to learn my process, I'll link it down below in the description. All right, so that's what I would say. Just really focus on the things that you enjoy, that make harmonica fun for you, because then you're just going to play it long term, and that's really what you want. The hard work of working on your scales and techniques is like a necessary evil, but I would definitely make sure to check in with it, especially if you only have like a half hour. For our next question, Vic L said, "Hi Jonah, I use your scale trainer to practice my scales. While I am making progress lip pursing the scales, I have trouble tongue blocking them, especially when playing bent notes. Do you have any suggestions to help me improve the tongue block bends, or should I only lip purse them?" Well, first of all, I want to just say you don't need to learn both tongue blocking and lip pursing at the same time. I don't think it's necessary. I'd say pick the one that you like, and really focus in on it and make sure you get good at that. There is much more to be gained to being a specialist at one style instead of being a generalist at both of them. And I think to go further, you should just pick one and commit, and then maybe pick the other one up years down the road if you want to figure out how the other way of playing feels. As far as the bending goes, bending is a little bit harder on tongue blocking because you only can bend with your tongue. So in your mouth, your tongue, when you're doing a bend and tongue blocking, is going to collapse down like that, okay? That's what creates the bend. When you are pursing or puckering, you can do that thing with your tongue in the same way, or you can suck in your cheeks or drop your jaw. So for that, I'm kind of doing more of like a suction motion as opposed to intentionally moving my tongue. So if you are a puckering player and that is how you bend, it's not the best way to bend. It's not the way that has the most control. And I would say you would benefit a lot from practicing those bends in the tongue blocking ometer, because it's really going to train you how to use your tongue properly. So this is a little bit of, you just don't know the technique well enough and you need to spend a little bit more time on it. But I would say if it's really giving you a hard time and you like puckering or lip pursing, I just stick with that. Save yourself a little bit of trouble. Okay, let's move on to another one. TB asked, I'm very new to playing the harmonica, and technically I've never played an instrument before. I don't play well, understandably, so I'm a little embarrassed to play within earshot of people. So my question, have you ever felt insecure playing near or in front of people? And the answer is, of course, yes. I think everybody who has ever done something in front of people where people are paying attention, you get nervous. And the way of dealing with those nerves are really twofold. The first way is to just get better, okay? If you are very confident in your playing, you're not going to feel as bad playing around other people because you know that you have some skills, right? You aren't going to be worried about people criticizing you because you know you put the time in. So I would just say, work on getting better, first of all. Secondly, when you are going to play in front of people, you need to get your feet wet with low-risk situations, like playing your harmonica over a backing track while sitting on a bench at a local park. Something like that should be a little less stressful than going up on stage, as an example. And if even that is too much, you know, baby steps. Grab your harmonica, play a few notes, and realize the world didn't end, okay? Even if someone is judging you, does it really matter? It really doesn't. It really doesn't. For me, I learned how to get over this fear of playing in front of people and like a trial by fire kind of way, because I went to music school, and in music school, we had this class, or at least I did, where I would go up on stage like twice a week for about 4 years. And it really just got all of that hesitation out of my system. So I don't have great advice from starting from scratch, besides the fact that it's an exposure thing. You just got to do it. So I would say get experience playing in front of people in low pressure situations, and then eventually try to become more bold as your skills increase. Our next question is, how do you pick which harmonica to use for songs in a minor key? And it's somewhat complicated, so let me just run you through my thought process. First of all, I know that there's a bunch of different kinds of minor scales that I can play. So the blues scale is, of course, bluesy. The third position scales are a little bit more aggressive. The fourth position minor scale is a little bit more melancholic. And the fifth position minor pentatonic is a little bit funkier than the rest. So I pick which one of these sounds that I want, and then for me, I just use my knowledge of theory to make this decision. Some people rely on charts. I do have a document called the Harp Key Finder, which you could print out and use as a quick visual reference for first through third positions. But I would say just when you get a new harmonica, memorize all the keys that it can play in, okay? So this C harmonica can play in C in first position, plays in G in second position. It plays in D minor in third position. It plays in A minor in fourth position. And it plays in E minor in fifth position. So I learn these things, and then if I see, oh, there's a song that's in E minor, well, I want the melancholic sound of fourth position. Okay, so how do I do that? Fourth position is played on a G harmonica, okay? So I would grab a G harmonica, and that's how I would make the decision. I think of what's the sound I want first, and then I just go and rely on my essentially memorization of the key relationships to just choose a harmonica. You, of course, could use a chart as well. All right, next question, Tim B asks, how do I best work to increase tempo? I use Harp Trainer daily to help increase tempo with single, mostly adjacent notes. Beyond that, I just take various riffs and push up the tempo with a metronome, but there might be some good recommended exercises to focus on improvement. I would say here you're doing all the right things, okay? You can increase your tempo by working on your scales like we do in Harp Trainer. You can do that by just taking individual licks and then working on getting them faster and faster, maybe something like this. If you do something like that over a metronome, I think you'll find a lot of value in that. Besides that, I would say actually try playing with fast music, okay? Put on some backing tracks that are fast. I'm talking like fast rock music, something like that, that's actually going to push you to your limits, and see if all of the kind of bookwork that you've been doing is actually going to pay off in those situations. And if it doesn't, find some technological way to lower the tempo a little bit until you can actually keep up. So instead of just focusing on exercises, I would get some real practical experience by playing over fast music and seeing if you can handle it. And if you can't, you just need more practice. The next question is from Mike D, and it's a doozy. He writes, "Hi Jonah, for me it's scales. I'd like to know the scales better, explain the notes of the scales and what makes them minor and major. I used to play guitar a lot, and I think I need to look at the scales on there and realize why the notes change and where." So this is something that's kind of hard to do on a harmonica because we don't have all of the notes. So seeing all these relationships is a little bit confusing, but to start, you're going to want to understand the concept of scale degrees. So every note of your scale is going to have a number associated with it. As an example, on a C harmonica in second position, we have the G major scale. I can play this with overblows. Take a listen. Okay, so that's the G major scale, and we would think in our head 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. Those are scale degrees, which are based off of a major scale. From there, we can either remove notes. So if we remove some notes, we can get the major pentatonic scale like this. Or we can take the notes of those major scale and we can start lowering them. If we lower scale degree 3, 6, and 7, we get the natural minor scale, which sounds like this. A little tricky, got some overblows in there. And you can keep removing notes from that to get the minor pentatonic scale. Knowing all of these different relationships is only so useful on harmonica because of how we deal with chromatic notes, essentially on bends and overblows. It gets really confusing. So instead, I would just say really learn the patterns and also just learn the scale degrees. And over time, you'll hear that certain scale degrees function a certain way, and you'll know that, oh, this thing I'm playing sounds major. Maybe I need to lower scale degree 3. Okay, so this is something you pick up over time. It's a very deep question. It's not something I can really go over in full right now, but that should get you started. Go study scale degrees. Our final question today comes from Chuck S, who asks, "My question is, how important is it to learn overblows? I've run into several tunes that require them in order to play the song properly. Georgia on My Mind, for example. What do we do about overblows?" So if you're not in the loop, an overblow is a technique that you can do. It's very similar in functionality to blow bending. And if you do that blow bending position on some of the blow holes in the lower end of your harmonica, like let's say hole 6, you create an overblow sound if your reeds are really, really properly set up. So to get those reeds set up the right way, a lot of people buy customized harmonicas that have been worked over by a professional. They also make some harmonicas that are supposed to be a little bit better for overblows out of the box, like the Harmo Torpedo, which I definitely can't vouch for. Mine wasn't very good, but that's an option as well. Or you can do the setup yourself. I do that myself, and I can show you how to do it in the video where I teach harmonica reed gapping. Essentially, it's the same process. You're just going to make sure the reed gaps are as small as humanly possible on both the draw and the blow reed. And if you do all that, you should be able to overblow. This is a lot to ask for someone just to play a few extra notes, but it does come up in playing, and it can come up in two ways. One way is when you need a note in a scale that you don't have. So if I'm playing the blues scale in second position, right there, we want to keep going up the scale, and I want to play the flat 3 note, but I can't play it. Chromatically, it just doesn't exist unless you play it on the overblow, on 6 overblow. And that note is going to help me connect the stuff that I've already played and the top notes of the scale. So it's useful, definitely. Definitely when you're soloing, there's a lot of value here. But the question is, do you need to learn it? And I really don't know. If you're playing a song you're covering in second position and it requires a chromatic note that you can't play, well, you really don't have a choice if you want to play it exactly note for note, unless you get a different tuning of harmonica. So as an example, this is a Kongsheng Baby Fat. It's a 7-hole harmonica, but the reason why I bring it out is it's in country tuning. All right. So that note that I'm playing there is very hard to hit on a normal harmonica because it's on an overblow, but in the alternate tuning, you could just play it as a normal note. So if you are learning a song in particular and you want it to be as easy as possible and not have to learn overblows, one option is to just choose an alt tuning that's going to make it easy, like maybe the country tuning for a major scale song or the natural minor tuning for a minor scale song. So that's one way around learning overblows. But if you really want to be, perfectly note for note accurate on a song and you don't want to have a larger collection of harmonicas, at some point you're just going to have to learn them or just accept that you don't have access to those notes. There are plenty of fantastic harmonica players that don't overblow at all. So I don't want you to feel like you absolutely need to learn them. But, are you going to find a song that has chromatic notes that you can't play on your standard harmonica? Yes. If that really bothers you, you can figure it out. Or you can pick up a different kind of harmonica, like an alternate tuning or a chromatic harmonica. If that's the kind of music that you're playing and you need lots of chromatic notes, you probably want to play a chromatic. So I hope that helps. Overblows are definitely a weird part about this instrument as it gives you more notes, but it's a technique that's only accessed by actually advanced players. I wouldn't hold yourself to learning them. Just see if you can pick them up. And if you can and you can use them, well, fantastic. If you can't, there are other options that you can go for to make it essentially a moot point because you have other ways of playing those notes. I hope these answers helped you out in your harmonica practice. If you want to check out any of my free things like the Harmonica Accelerator course or my scale cheat sheet, you can go find the links for those down below in the description, and I will see you next week. Peace.